Republic,
for which it stands, one nation,
under
under
God,
God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all.
Pursuant to Section 5, Chapter 231, Law 1975, this is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of regular meetings on the bulletin board of the municipal building, by mailing the annual notice of regular meetings for 2020 to the News Record and Star Ledger in December 2019, and by filing the notice in the office of the township clerk.
Ms. Adams,
Here.
Mr. Daffis,
Here.
Mr. DeLuca,
Here.
Mr. Lembrick,
here,
Mayor McGee.
Here.
Whereas Chapter 231, Public Laws 1975, commonly known as the Open Public Meetings Act, requires that all meetings of public bodies be open to the public. And whereas Section 7A provides that the governing body has the discretion to permit, prohibit, or regulate the active participation of the public at any meeting. And whereas desire the governing body to comply with the provision of this act, same time to conduct its business in an orderly and expeditious manner. Now therefore be resolved by the Township Committee, Township Maplewood, does hereby prohibit, except as set forth in the formal agenda, active participation in deliberations of the governing body by the public, and except as otherwise prescribed by law, does limit the public to the observation of the actions and discussion of the governing body and all of its regular and special meetings.
so moved.
Second.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Daffis,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick,
Yes,
Mayor McGee.
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Fritzen. And good evening, everyone, and welcome to our final meeting of the year, the Tuesday, December 15th Township Committee meeting. I will briefly roll through the agenda. We will first start with a proclamation for Tessa Goldstein, who is our first place winner in the Maplewood 2020 photo contest. We'll finally do our final employee spotlight, employee of the month. We'll be honoring Sarah Lester, who is the director of the Maplewood Memorial Library. Afterwards, we'll move into our first public comment, which is on agenda items only, and will be limited to 3 minutes. From there, we will conduct our second public hearing regarding constructing ADA compliant curb cuts in our township. Tonight, we have 2 resolutions on final. We have a resolution appropriating funding for our block grant program. And also we have a ordinance on final related to establishing salary ranges for our employees. Actually, we have 3 on final. I apologize as I scroll down. We have the authorization of special emergency appropriation for the local government services. At that point, we will then have a report from our CFO, Mr. Koloje, who we also call CFO Joe. And then we'll hear from our administrative team, our interim administrator, Mr. Schuster, our township attorney, Mr. Desiderio, and our township clerk, Ms. Fritzen. From there, we will go into reports from our elected officials. And then at that point, we'll move into our discussion items. We have 7 discussion items for this evening. We'll hear about social worker and policy update from Mr. Daffis, social worker shared services with South Orange and senior outreach from Mr. Daffis, and Maplewood Village pedestrian plaza from Mr. Daffis. We will also get a report on this morning's bid for our 8th Township Committee liquor license. This is a distribution license. Then a consumption license, excuse me. And then we will hear from Mr. DeLuca, who will provide us with information regarding the current demographics of our boards and committees. Our next discussion item will be led by Ms. Adams, who will be talking about a shared service opportunity regarding consolidating, or better said, enhancing our recycling bid program with South Orange. And then finally, we'll hear from our township attorney, Mr. Desiderio, who will communicate to us about some potential easements at 9 Highland Place. At that point, we'll move into our consent agenda, where we have a total of 18 items on the agenda, including but not limited to appointing rather, 2 of our police officers on their promotions. And we will formalize them tonight. Also, authorization to change of a municipal building roof and HVAC replacement. The insurance of special emergency notes. The authorization change order for restoration to our town hall front walkway, which has been a long time in the making, I must say. Bills and claims. Resolution on accepting our pool note sale, which we'll hear back from Mr. Desiderio, from Mr. Kaloje. And then we'll move on to approving the minutes from the regular and closed session. At that point, we will have our final public comment, which is on any subject matter. And then we will adjourn our regular meeting and move into a brief ABC meeting where we'll discuss a retail consumption license transfer, person to person. And that is our agenda for tonight. So relatively long, I would say, for the last agenda of the year, but a lot of good stuff. And obviously in our reports, as elected officials, will touch on some key factors, including but not limited to the storm, our first storm of the season that is coming ahead. So without further ado, let's go ahead and move forward with our first agenda item, which I think is a pretty cool one. And that is recognizing Tessa L. Goldstein is our first place winner of the Maplewood Photo Contest. And let me first start off by saying happy birthday, Tessa. Today's Tessa's birthday. She turned 12 today. So how cool is that? Awesome. So Tessa, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a proclamation on behalf of the Township Committee recognizing your amazing accomplishment. And then we'd love to hear a few words from you if you'd like to speak. Okay. All right. Well, I will go ahead and read the proclamation.
She cut me up pretty.
Whereas Tessa L. Goldstein is a 12-year-old photography enthusiast and resident of Maplewood. And whereas Tessa is the first place winner of the Maplewood 2020 photo contest for her photograph, "Laughter is the Best Medicine." Amen to that. And whereas Tessa's photograph was one of 100 entries highlighting life in Maplewood.
Wow.
And we had 15 finalists that were chosen. And she, of course, won the 15, and over 3,100 votes were received. And whereas Tessa's image of levity and joy captured the hearts and eyes of over 500 voters to be the best in the competition. Laughter is the best medicine. And furthermore, all the other winners and finalists will all be shown and exhibited in the windows of the 1978 Arts Center for residents to safely enjoy. Now, therefore, I, Frank McGehee, Mayor of Maplewood, on behalf of the Township Committee, do hereby congratulate Tessa on her achievement and encourage her to continue her photography. Congratulations, Tessa.
All right.
Yay.
Tessa, would you like to say a few words? No pressure, but we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, thank you so much. This means a lot. I really enjoyed being part of this photo competition, and I'm really surprised that I won because this is actually my first photo competition. And this, like the photo itself, I really thought it was a good photo because it showed like the amazing friendships I made in this community.
Awesome. Well, congratulations, Tessa. Bravo. And you got a few volunteers here too. Mr. Lindbergh, please.
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to say two things. I wanted to thank our Arts and Culture Director, Anna D'Archuleta, for running the contest. I think it was a great idea to get people involved during the pandemic. When many of us, weren't outside to show some of the best of Maplewood, even during difficult times. And we got some wonderful entries, and obviously Tessa's prevailed. And I just wanted to note that, among the entries we received and the other finalists included a number of professional photographers who are very prominent in our community with large social media followings. So, that one of our youth was able to win this competition. I think, really shows the power that our youth can have to capture the spirit of our community and to rally, really rally people of all ages around great art. So thank you, Tessa. Thank you, Anna. And congratulations to all of our finalists.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to share a few words of congratulations to Tessa as well, if I may. Tessa, congratulations and happy birthday.
Thank you.
I just want to tell you something. As you grow as an artist, as you become a young woman, one of the most powerful things that you can do for the world, not just here in your own community, which you already begun doing, is to share your art, your vision with the world. Don't ever let anyone tell you that your vision is not good enough and that it doesn't matter, or that it's silly, or that it should be disregarded, or that it should be discounted. What you're doing already with your very first win in this contest, right, is you are sharing your art, and with your art, you're winning hearts and minds, and you're bringing joy, and you're bringing us all together tonight in Maplewood and South Orange. And for that, you young lady, you did that yourself. So I want you to be proud. I want your parents, your awesome parents, to be proud of you. And we're all proud of you and all of our youth in our community. So a big congratulations from me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Committee Member Daff.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you again, Tessa. Amazing. Got some proud parents there, we see, righteously so. So listen, we don't want you could stay around if you want. You're more than welcome for the next couple of hours, or you can go have your favorite dessert and and enjoy some time with your family. So congratulations again, Tessa.
Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you so much.
for doing this.
You made it so wonderful for her. Thank you.
Very welcome. We're going to use your photo in our background before you become famous and copyright it.
Yeah.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Oh, that's right.
Thank you. Have a wonderful night.
Good night. That's awesome. All right, and now for some more good news. I just want to say, when I think about Michelle Gary and Cesar Riccardi and Don Ross and Adele Lewis and Anna Markova and Glenn and Nick and Officer Gil and Beverly Mozone and Melissa Mancuso, Tim Ellis, Ana Lopez, April Miller, Hassan, the Johns, John Singleton, John Macy, Lindsay Rella, and Ana de la Archuleta. These are all of our winners from the 2020 Employee Spotlight. Just a great, amazing team across all departments, with all different types of tenures of service, and taking on all types of amazing projects for the better good of our community. But it would not be a fitting end to 2020 if we didn't recognize one of our great employees, and that is in the director of our libraries, Sarah Lester. So I would like to turn the floor over to Mr. DeLuca to read the proclamation.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a resolution of recognition and appreciation for Sarah Lester, and I might note that Sarah is here with her family on the screen. Hello, everybody. And also, as the attendees, we have representatives from the Library Board, the Library Foundation, and the Friends of the Library, and the library staff. So you have a big following, Sarah. So let me read this. Whereas the Township of Maplewood has been fortunate to have dedicated staff committed to the mission of the municipality, and whereas we want to recognize Sarah Lester for her commitment to the mission of leading the Maplewood Library. Since coming to Maplewood, Sarah has established unique and innovative programming, including impactful Black History Month events, meaningful after-school activities, the Welcome to Maplewood series, and the Ideas Festival. Sarah was also essential to securing renovations to the Hilton branch of the library and to the New Jersey State Library grant of $8,388,250 that will make Maplewood's state-of-the-art new library possible. Whereas we, as the Township Committee, wish to extend our utmost appreciation for the work that Sarah has done to make public service an exciting and joyous experience for the residents of the Township of Maplewood. And whereas the Township Committee wishes to extend our sincere best wishes for every happiness in the future and in her continued success in making the Township a desirable place to work, now therefore be it resolved that the Maplewood Township Committee recognizes and appreciates the service of staff employee Sarah Lester, the director of the Maplewood Memorial Library, and wishes her well in all future endeavors, and as long as they're at the library and nowhere else, and that this resolution of appreciation and support be duly recorded by the Township Committee on this 15th day of the month of December in the year 2020. Congratulations, Sarah.
Congrats.
I really want to thank all of you. I'm so lucky to work in a town that has an incredibly supportive township committee, an incredible town, and I'm incredibly fortunate to work in a job that I love and to work with incredible people. And I have never taken that for granted. And I really do appreciate the appreciation, but it's a joy to have a job that you love. And so I'm really thankful for that, and thankful for all these guys around me. I've got, a great family support system behind me, and I'm really looking forward to an incredible library in Maplewood. So thank you all.
Woo! So are we.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much. And you're amazing. I mean, it goes with, everyone knows you're amazing. Anyone who steps in that library, they feel your leadership, they feel your presence. And just as the proclamation said, the events under your leadership have just been phenomenal. The Ideas Festival is like one of my favorite things. Every year it gets cooler and cooler. It's brilliance. It's brilliance. And you are a breath of fresh air for our community. So I salute you. We salute you. We appreciate you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, so now that we've celebrated you, now you as a family can go celebrate. Will, good to see you back home. Glad you're home. Awesome. So take care, Lesters. We appreciate you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
All right. We'll now move forward to agenda item number 7, which is a public comment period. It's on agenda items only, and it's limited to 3 minutes. Nick, who's doing public comment tonight? Because I'm not sure who's managing that list.
So I'm still going to take care of public comment. So if anybody would like to speak now at the time, please use the raise your hand function, and we'll give you 3 minutes to cover agenda items only. Okay, Mayor, first up, Inda Sechzer, you have 3 minutes.
I think she's muted.
Yeah, you're muted. You can unmute yourself.
Sorry. Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, you can.
Hi there, this is Inda. My daughter has a comment that she wanted to make. So she's just on the computer with me. So it's really not me. It's Alexandra Birnbaum, same address, 57 Euclid Avenue.
Hi there, how are you?
Good evening.
How are you? Staying safe, I hope. I just had a concern that I was in town today and I saw our wonderful noodle place, Ani Ramen, had igloos, had igloos out front, and I'm really concerned about that because a lot of leadership in different places is coming out and saying that the igloos themselves aren't safe because the people who go out to eat aren't necessarily in one household, and the igloos are like being indoors.
Yeah.
They're enclosures, they're not actually outdoor dining. And I'm just wondering what exactly can be done about this. I don't want to penalize restaurants in any way, but I don't want our community getting sicker because of something like this.
Well, thank you for your comment. Even though it's not an agenda item, the good news is we can address it. I know Mr. Palma is with us this evening, and I see Mr. Daff is raising his hand as well. So we'll do this one. Mr. Daff, as you raise your hand, and Mr. Palma is here as well. So.
Yeah, so thank you for the question. It is definitely a very good question and a big concern for us. We were puzzled as well. But I will say that the governor, in one of his executive orders, as he was directing in concert with state public health officials, what outdoor dining will look like as it gets colder during the winter months. These igloos, or these sort of enclosed dining spaces, have been sanctioned as okay by the public health officials. So long as in between diners, they are fully cleaned, so long as there is a period between diners so that they can remain open and aired out. And the same goes with the larger tents, by the way, not just the little igloos that are made really for individual dining, 2 to 4 people. As long as they are open on either side, at least 50% of the tent is open to allow for that airflow. The state public health officials and the governor's office have sanctioned them as being okay. Now, I completely hear your concern, and some of our restaurateurs have chosen not to go that route with respect to the individual igloos. But we have certainly inspected, and Mr. Palma can talk about that a little bit. We have our public health officials and our code folks on the ground inspecting to make sure that they are following all of those protocols that I talked about. Annette, did you want to follow up?
I don't really have anything to contribute to what you to this conversation at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Davis, and thank you, Mr. Palma, and thank you for the question. Do we have any more questions, Mr. Waltz? This is a Maplewood Department. Nick, is that you? I don't even
That's
know.
me. Sorry, they changed my name for an event. That's it, Mayor. You guys are good for public comment.
Great. Thanks, Nick. Appreciate it. Okay, we'll now move on to agenda item number 8, which is our second public hearing. Mr. Palma, you now have the floor to run your hearing.
Hi, good evening. This is the Township's second public hearing. I'm Annette Palma, the Director of Community Development. This is our second public hearing in support of the Township's application for community block grant funding from Essex County. We intend to use the funds to make ADA compliant curb cuts at various intersections throughout the township. We got funding for this last year. It was a wonderful thing. We were able to integrate the work into our road program and thereby do a nice, clean road construction and renovation. That's what we are applying for the funding for. The grant application is due in January. And we hope to get in the ballpark of what we have typically gotten from CDBG, which is $160,000, $180,000. We're not sure about the funding levels for this year, but we write a strong application and hope for the best. Are there any questions?
Any questions from Mr. Palma? Hearing none, I guess we will close the hearing.
Okay, before we do that, Mayor, one thing that we are required to do is have a sign-in sheet of people that were present at the public hearing.
Yes.
And so you did the logistical end of this last week, and I'm hoping that you will do the same this week.
I'm doing it as we speak. Just for the public's education, what I'm able to do is on my monitors here is take a screenshot of everyone who is currently at the meeting. and then I'm able to send that to Mr. Palmer for her records. Traditionally, what we would do is we would actually we'd have a clipboard and paper and a pen, and we'd ask everyone who's present at our township committee meeting to actually sign the document. So I'm in lieu of that, to be in compliance, I am taking care of that right now. So, okay, Mr. Palmer, I have captured attendees and panelists, and I will send you that communication tomorrow morning.
Okay, thank you very much. And there's a resolution that the Township Committee will presumably pass, and that should be signed off by the clerk, and I'll insert that with the application.
Yes, and I believe that's actually on the agenda right after this. Mr. Desidero, do you have anything you wanted to comment? I heard you interject for a second.
No, I'm good, Mayor. Mr. Palmer's done a fine job, as she always does.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Desiderio.
Outstanding. Okay, so we will close the hearing. That was our second and final hearing. And now we'll move on to, we have a resolution, Ms. Fritzen.
Mayor, item 10, it's a resolution number 334-20. Resolution approving an application for funding from the 2021 Essex County Community Development Block Grant Program, CDBG, to construct ADA compliant curb cuts at intersections in the township of Maplewood.
Can we get a motion, Ms. Adams?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mayor McGee?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Fritzen. We now have an ordinance on final passage.
Yes, Mayor. Item number 11, ordinance on final passage. Ordinance number 3010-20 is an ordinance to further amend classification of employment positions within the township of Maplewood and to establish salary ranges for employees. This ordinance will revise classification of employment positions and salaries within the township of Maplewood, consistent with the revision of the table of organization established within the township of Maplewood.
The ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and copies made available to the general public in accordance with the law. Would anyone like to speak on this ordinance regarding establishing salary ranges for employees?
I don't see anyone, Mayor.
Thank you, Nick. Hearing no one, will close the public hearing. May I receive a motion, Mr. DeLuca?
Mayor, I move this ordinance be adopted as a whole and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a passed ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
I'll second it. Any discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Fritzen, please call the roll.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick?
Yes.
Mayor McGee?
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Fritzen. We now have another ordinance on final.
Yes, Mayor. Item 12, ordinance on final passage, ordinance number 3011-20, ordinance authorizing a special emergency appropriation in the amount of $3,894,165 or such other amount certified by the Director of the Division of Local Government Services for the purposes set forth in NJSA 48-4-53L and or NJSA 48-4-53M in and by the Township of Maplewood in the County of Essex, New Jersey regarding COVID-19.
The ordinance has been published, copies posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and copies made available to the general public in accordance with the law. Would anyone like to speak on this ordinance regarding a special emergency appropriation?
I don't see anyone, Mayor.
Thank you, Nick. Hearing no one, will close the public hearing. Can I get a motion, Mr. DeLuca?
Mayor, I move this ordinance be adopted as a whole and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a passed ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
I'll second it. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Fritzen, please call the roll.
Mr. Adams,
Yes.
Mr. Daffis,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick,
Yes.
Mayor McGehee.
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Fritzen. We're now on agenda item number 13, reports from the departments. We'll hear from our CFO, Mr. Kaloje, who has presented us with his final budget report for 2020, but we'll also just have a report on what he provided us to read previously. Mr. Kaloje, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll try and be brief because it looks like the agenda is pretty heavy for you guys. You just passed the ordinance that was required by the petition that we sent down to the state of New Jersey to get some additional options available to us in the 2021 budget. You have an accompanying resolution that you will also be passing. Once Ms. Fritzen gives it the seal and the signature, we'll send it down to Trenton and then hopefully get an answer from the Director of the Division of Local Government Services sooner rather than later. However, the law is set up that if we do not get an answer within 45 days of our original submission, which was back in November, that it is automatically approved. So we'll hold our breath until we hear back from the director. On tonight's agenda, you have a budget transfer. It's our second one of the 2 months end of the year season. That's obviously an improvement over last year where we had 4 at every meeting we had one. So we're certainly starting to tighten our budget and get a little better at what we're putting together. I anticipate that we'll probably have 1 or 2 in the following year, particularly with the snowstorm pending. My guess is that there's going to need to be some transfer of funds. We renewed a pool note last week. It is separate from the large project that we're doing for the filtration system. We paid down $15,000 on the note, and so it's been renewed at roughly $156,000. Even though we only had 1 bidder, we were fortunate to get a very favorable interest rate of 1.15%. A quick CARES update. We've roughly received about $144,000 at this point. We currently have $92,000 under review. We are submitting our big ticket items as requested separately this week to the tune of about $470,000. Monday or Tuesday, we will be submitting about another $100,000 in salary and wages for reimbursement because we'll have our final payroll register of the year this Friday. And then we'll take one final sweep during this week to see if we missed any POs that were not perhaps correctly set with the tracking ID of COVID, just to make sure that we're not leaving anything on the table. We were allocated $886,000 roughly. It looks like we're on pace to spend about $810,000, but that is largely a function of our estimates and the approval to move forward with projects back in September and October have all come in under budget. So the good news is we're under budget. The bad news is that there's going to be some additional funding that we're not going to be able to pick up on. The one last note that I'd like to bring to the Township Committee's attention is every year the state sends out a new budget. Statutorily, we're supposed to get budgets to the governing body by January, introduce it by February, and adopt it by March. And every year, the local finance notice comes out and changes those dates. And this year's dates are budget to the governing body by the end of February, introduction of the budget by the end of March or the beginning of April, and then an adoption of the budget by the end of April, beginning of May. It would be my recommendation, similar to what we did last year, that we stretch this out, the budget process, as long as we can, because we'll get a better feel for where we are from an economy perspective, where we are from a revenue perspective, and then we could adjust our budget accordingly before we adopt it. So that pretty much covers it, Mayor, unless anyone has any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Kaloje. Do we have any questions for Mr. Kaloje? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Kaloje. It's a good report, and listen, it's been a tough year, no doubt, but you know, we've done the best we can, and I look forward to moving forward in 2021. So thank you for all your service, and Happy New Year to you, and Happy Holidays to you and your family.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, we'll now move on to agenda item number 14, which is administrative reports. We'll hear from Greg Schuster, our interim township administrator. Mr. Schuster, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank everyone again for all the assistance you've been through the last couple of weeks where I've been coming up to speed. It's definitely like drinking from a fire hose. And so I appreciate everyone's patience, and the staff has been phenomenal. You really have a great team here. I enjoy seeing how everyone works together hand in hand, both the staff and the elected officials. So it's been a real pleasure working here. A few things of note, and unfortunately, I might steal a little bit of Mr. DeLuca's thunder, so I won't go into too much of the items. Obviously, been working on the vaccine distribution. There has been quite a few calls and meetings. Residents should look for a lot of information coming out about where to go for this vaccine and other pertinent information. If you didn't know already, the distribution site is going to be at Sears at the Livingston Mall. Again, more information we put out on that shortly. We are getting ready for a winter storm gale that's on the way. The library will be closed at noon tomorrow. Decisions on other township facilities will be made as the forecast changes. Public Works will be out salting and pre-treating the roads up ahead of the storm. And of course, we'll be out there during the storm. So just urge everyone to use caution, stay home if at all possible, stay off the roads, and of course, no parking on the streets when the disaster declaration goes into effect, which I believe is at noon tomorrow. And as our CFO already talked about, we have been working on the 2021 budget. We have been given by the new timeline some additional breathing room. So we'll be looking for more of those meetings, and those recommendations will be coming forward. Other than that, the last thing I'd like to report on is the roof project at the municipal building has been extended out for another week. We're looking at it getting done by the end of this week. They said even with the weather, they should be completed, which I know the mayor is looking forward to kicking me out of his office and getting it back to himself. So that is my report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Schuster. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Schuster? All right, hearing none. Thank you, and also thank you for your service. You stepped right in and took the ball and ran with it. So collectively, we're very pleased and thankful to have you on board at this time. So thanks again, Mr. Schuster.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, we'll now hear from our township attorney, Mr. Desiderio. Mr. Desiderio, you have the floor.
Mayor, I have no report, sir.
All right, hearing no report from Mr. Desiderio, does anyone have any questions for Mr. Desiderio? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Desiderio. We'll now hear from our township clerk, Ms. Fritzen.
Thanks, Mayor. So I'm just going to jump with my first item to, it's really a discussion item, so that'll knock one of them off because it's a quick report. Item number 4, report of bidding for the township-owned liquor license. Bids were due this morning at 10 a.m. I regret to inform you that no bids were received. And that is the third time we have auctioned for bid the township-owned liquor license. So we're planning for a remote, obviously, New Year's Day agenda. And I'm in the process of working that up. And I think I may even have the final parts to that agenda after tonight's township committee meeting. It'll be a lot different than we've had in the past. It'll be the first one that I've ever been to remotely. I was kind of looking forward to this year's New Year's Day agenda since I missed last year. But anyway, it'll be with a lot of action items. And again, pretty much be finalized in the next day or two. And then my only other item is later on in tonight's ABC hearing is a person-to-person transfer, as you all know, a plenary retail consumption liquor license transfer. And that's all that I have, unless you have any questions of me.
Thank you, Ms. Fritzen. Any questions for Ms. Fritzen at this time?
I'm sorry, I just thought of something. We don't have, if we can just sit on that liquor license and put it out to bid whenever we want. because it's a weird time to be putting one out. So we can just, right?
Yes.
Correct.
Yes, that is correct. We have the option to put it out when we want. You know, we ever hear a rumbling, hey, you can throw it out there and make a quick, you know, 500K or, you know, so yes, we
Yeah.
have the option.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Thanks.
Any other questions for Ms. Fritzen? All right, hearing none. Thank you, Ms. Fritzen. We'll now move on to agenda item number 15, reports from elected officials. Ms. Adams, you have the floor.
Other than wishing everyone a safe and happy holiday, I have no report, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Adams. Ms. DeLuca, you now have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few items here. The Arts Council has unveiled their poetry banners, the Maplewood Black Lives Matter Poetry Project. We have 38 poetry banners that have been installed around town. We did an opening last Saturday at the Duck Pond in Memorial Park. I urge everyone to go there. It's just wonderful to walk around and see all the different poetry. Those banners will be up for about 6 months. We're going to have different events, certainly during Black History Month, but throughout those 6 months, we're going to have maps. You can do self-tours. We'll have small gatherings, meet the poets, things like that. So this is really an exciting project. And I want to thank Marcy Thompson, the chair of the Arts Council, and the other members of the Arts Council for their work. The Affordable Housing Board met last night. And as you know, we've taken on a project, a homeowner opportunity program, and working with 2 families that meet the affordable housing guidelines to help them purchase homes in town. And so it has been a difficult process because the market is so hot. So we've retooled a little bit last night, and we're going to continue to move forward with this. And if anyone knows of property that's selling before it gets to the market, if you know of someone who's thinking of selling their property and they'd like to think they could help us with this program, just contact us and we'll have, we'll pay market value, but we'd like to pay at the low end of market, not the bidder war market. It's just incredible out there. We've lost 2 homes that we bid on. The other thing is I just want to put a bookmark here for when we talk about capital. The board last night talked about our housing rehabilitation program. And as you know, what we do is we make $20,000 available to eligible families that live in town currently who need help in fixing up their homes to meet life safety concerns and just to get their home to meet codes. So we have met our obligation as per the court agreement. So at the end of this year, we have no further obligation, no legal obligation, but we do have about 6 families that are on the list that have expressed interest in the program. And what we'd like to do is go back to what we used to do years ago. And we used to put about $60,000 into our capital budget, which allowed us to do roughly on average about 2 homes a year, 2 or 3 in this program. So we're working up a recommendation, and that will be something that I'd like to put on the discussion agenda when we deal with the budget. I want to move to Sustainable Maplewood, just a couple of things, 3 things there. Number 1, the Sustainable Sustainable Essex Alliance. It's our electric cooperative buying program. We had one before. It's actually ending right now as we speak. We have a new program that's going to start in March with a firm, Energy Harbor. We have now made 7 towns part of this cooperative. We are going to be sending out, or Energy Harbor is going to be sending out letters to residential PSE&G customers in early January, the first week in January. We're going to have a public Zoom session on Thursday, January 14th to answer any questions that people might have. And then this program will begin in March. Again, we will purchase electricity for residents in town. People will have the opportunity to opt out of the program. If you do nothing, we just, it just automatically switches over to Energy Harbor. And one of the features in this one that we didn't have in the last one is that anyone who would like to pay a few dollars more a month can get 100% green product. So that's an option this year that we are adding into the program. And lastly, I'm sorry, and then the other two things under Sustainable Maplewood, our energy saving improvement program. We had been focusing on doing some work at Town Hall, looking at some energy efficiency upgrades, lighting, boiler, maybe even some solar power. We've been working with a firm, and we're really not there yet with that firm, and we think we're too small. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the model of Sustainable Essex Alliance to go to the other municipalities that we partner with to see if we can put together a broader package of energy sustainability energy improvements and sustainability practices for the multiple municipalities. We think we can get a better quality of companies to work with us. And so that's something we're going to be working on, and hopefully will bear some fruit in 2021. And lastly, under Sustainable Maplewood, we are going to be having a meeting with the school district and their architects and engineers on Friday to discuss the sustainability features in their long-range facilities plan. We are doing it on the Maplewood and South Orange with Green Team members and elected officials and some of our professionals. So we're going to have that meeting on Friday and really just try to understand how they're building sustainability in their in the building program that they're contemplating. Lastly, as Mr. Schuster said about the emergency management, we are very much on top of the vaccination program that's coming up. We've set up 5 teams internally here in Maplewood: communication, volunteer recruitment and training, transportation and logistics, safety. We also have a management committee. We're working with South Orange. We're working very closely with the county. All of us were on a call today with the county executive and the sheriff and their teams. The vaccinations will roll out at the end of December, beginning of January. We're working very closely. We're going to be getting that information out to people. As Mr. Schuster said, the vaccination site will be in the old Sears building up at the Livingston Mall. And I've been up there. A bunch of us are going back on Friday to see the setup. So we're really moving forward and getting excited about this stage of addressing the pandemic. So you'll hear a lot more about this, and we just need everyone to be patient but ready to go once we get all of our I's dotted and T's crossed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeLuca. Mr. Limbrick, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Other than to just encourage everyone to stay safe the next couple of days in the storm, and then wish everyone celebrating Hanukkah a very happy Hanukkah, and all those celebrating Christmas and Kwanzaa upcoming, very happy holidays. And I look forward to seeing everyone, at least virtually, on January 1 for our reorganization meeting. And that is my report. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Limbrick. Mr. Daffis.
Thank you, Mayor. As Mr. DeLuca mentioned, we are all working very closely with the county, all hands on deck in the vaccination rollout effort. I'm chairing the communications piece of this, making sure we inform our residents about how, when, what, where, and that will be coming out shortly within the week. As to the rest of my report, I have a few agenda items for discussion. I'm going to yield the rest of my time to those items.
Thank you, Mr. Daffis. I have a few items, so we won't go over this again, but I think the word that Mr. DeLuca used is very important, that is patience. So we need to have all the information ourselves as a governing body and as administration from the county, working with our department heads, with our health officer, and understanding all the processes that are needed as we head into the vaccination period. We'll need volunteers from a medical perspective and from also a clerical perspective. And we will communicate how you can sign up to be a volunteer and help your community as we move forward together. We're also just getting all the information about what that volunteer experience looks like. So please look out for communications related to that, as well as communication about how, as I call it, the run of show will be. So you can be informed, knowing once from the moment you decide to sign up to the moment you're sitting in that chair and getting your shot, and then how everything will transpire when you get the second shot, when that next appointment will be. So we still are trying to figure out those things as well. We're also trying to understand transportation. We have residents in our town that don't have access to vehicles. And so we're trying to figure all that out as well, and working with South Orange and just the county as well. So there's more to come. But in the interim, there is a vaccine coming, but COVID is here. So please be mindful, wear your facial coverings, try your best to be smart about, your indoor gatherings. It's very critical. Our numbers are strong. We're at 663 through today. We're at clips at, low double digits a day now. So we're fighting the good fight, and we know that there is a light into the tunnel, but we're not there yet. So please be mindful of that, be smart, be safe. And we look forward to collaborating with the community to get us on the other side of this. From an administrative perspective, the search for our new township administrator is underway. This Friday will be the last day that we'll be receiving applications for the role. We've received several applications, and we look forward to working with our consultant to vet through those process. He is very encouraged by some of the applications we have. So we are moving forward with that process of finding our next township administrator. From a community economic and development perspective, obviously many people have concern about Kings and the theater. We all do. In the last couple of weeks, there have been several very good meetings held by my colleagues and myself, collectively, individually. We continue to, pick up the phone and make phone calls and follow up. And so more to come. I sent out a communication last week just to kind of set expectations. This is something that's just not going to flip overnight. It's going to take us some time to find the next chapter in that King space. And necessarily, it may not be a grocery store. We obviously want it to be that from the standpoint of keeping some continuity, but we can't necessarily control that component. But there is some interest, and we will continue to press forward with finding the next chapter for that property. And there's also a lot of interest in the theater as well. And so I'm happy about that as well. And so I'm very optimistic about the future of both those sites. From a special improvement district perspective, Springfield Avenue Partnership, they have a gift card gallery occurring right now.
Mayor, you just muted yourself, I think.
Mayor, you're muted. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Okay, sorry, I was just trying to share my screen, but this is the gift card gallery for Springfield Avenue Partnership. As all my colleagues have said, it's very important for all of us to shop local, and you can do it also by supporting your local businesses, online as well. But if you can, definitely try to shop local. From a community perspective, I just want to thank everyone who supported the Hilton Neighborhood Association food drive to benefit the St. Joseph's Food Pantry. It was a great turnout, thanks to the Hilton Neighborhood Association President Mary, and to Dean and to Vic who were there, and to the entire neighborhood association. It was a great turnout and great collection of goods for our community. And then also continue on that vein of community. I know that the MIND organization will be having a drop-off tomorrow from 10 to noon. It's abbreviated because of the storm at the Maplewood Main Library, and they're trying to collect peanut butter, rice, and donations. So MIND.org is an organization that helps all of our community, not just Maplewood and South Orange, but all of Essex County, meeting essential needs with dignity. That is that organization. From a sustainability perspective, proud to say that Maplewood signed the all-in statement on climate action and clean recovery. So several other communities and businesses and institutions have signed, over 118 colleges. I think it was 141 cities last time I checked. So obviously we are very strong in sustainability, as Mr. DeLuca articulated, as you will hear from Ms. Adams shortly. And so I'm happy that we are able to publicly support that as well. And then finally, it's that time of year for us. We're moving forward with the 2021 budget. We've already had several meetings with department heads have been underway with my colleagues and myself, and we'll be moving quickly into the budget meeting process, which happens in January. And so that is my report. All right, moving on. We now will talk about the 7 discussion items that we have, and we'll lead off with social worker and policing update by Mr. Daffis. Mr. Daffis, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor, and I'm going to be brief here, I promise. So I just wanted to give the committee an update and the community an update as to where we are here. As you recall, Mayor, we, the governing body, voted in support of the creation of a crisis intervention team embedded somehow within fire EMT, in our case, fire, to support and to intervene in vulnerable populations where traditional law enforcement isn't efficient and or enough necessary or appropriate. We hear often from our police officers that responding to domestic violence situations, which are on an increase around the country and certainly here in our community, responding to emotionally disturbed persons, substance abuse issues, and all sorts of scenarios such as that where a social worker could be a little bit more helpful. Certainly, we are looking into how to create this. So I just wanted to report that the Community Board on Police has done a phenomenal job in a short period of time of moving this forward a lot. They've been looking into how to operationalize such a team, and they're getting very close to the goal line here, where it's almost close to handing the ball over to us internally in terms of talking about hiring, in terms of talking about budgeting for this, and in terms of talking about internal infrastructure. So I ask for your support this evening for the creation of a steering committee. We don't need to be very formal about this. I recommend myself, Mr. Lembrick, as the 2 liaisons to the Community Board on Police, along with interim business administrator, Mr. Schuster, and our CFO Joe, Mr. Koloje, as the point persons in these ongoing conversations. We want to develop a mission statement. We want to do a needs assessment. We want to iron out all the criteria in the hiring process. Of course, the budget, what is this going to look like? The board is looking into just to get us started, maybe just 1 social worker, possibly 2, for a 1 to 2 year engagement. Again, the time has come to sort of bring this internal and take it on somewhat and have some skin in the game. The research has been done. All of those incredible volunteers out there, social workers and others who have contributed to this effort, we commend them, we salute them, we thank them tremendously. And so now the time has come to take it to the next step. I think the timing of this is great because, as you know, we're about to go into budget season anyway. And we have also publicly stated as a governing body unanimously that we are committed to diverting some resources from law enforcement into this effort. What that looks like and how that happens is to be determined, and now is the time to have those discussions. So with that, if I have your support, myself, Mr. Lembrick, Mr. Schuster, Mr. Koloje would be the steering committee to the Maplewood Community Board on Police as we bring this project into reality and figure out how to make it happen in 2021.
Thank you, Mr. Daffis. Any discussion? Okay. Ms. Fritzen, would you like to call the roll? I move that we establish the steering committee for social worker and social worker policy. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right. All right, Ms. Fritzen, please call the roll.
Mr. Adams,
Yes.
Mr. Daffis,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mr. Lembrick,
Yes.
Mayor McGee.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Fritzen. Mr. Daffis, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. The next item is different. This is not about figuring out how to liaise social workers with policing in our community, but rather going into a shared service agreement or engagement with South Orange. Let me give you a little bit of color and context as to where this is coming from. This is a recommendation that comes from our Senior Advisory Committee and from our SOMA Two Towns for All Ages Age-Friendly Community Initiative. During the pandemic, so South Orange has already hired last year a social worker. Her name is Carol Berman, through a contract with Jewish Family Services. They're a great social services organization. And Carol has been helping for the past year South Orange residents, South Orange seniors doing outreach as necessary. So this is beyond the outreach that can be done by our Human Services and Welfare Coordinator, Ms. Ashman, because we're talking about people who aren't necessarily on public assistance or who don't have that need. We're talking about other needs, right? Healthcare needs and others. During the pandemic, Ms. Berman, Carol Berman, being that we're one community, obviously, right? She has been very helpful to some of our residents in Maplewood during this time. And with this engagement, we would be making that official. She's already here. She's already helping our seniors in our community. And we would just make that official. Now, in terms of hours and money, we can talk about that as we get further in the process. I think the idea is, and this is not official, so please don't quote me, but the idea is about 15 hours for both towns. And I'm not sure exactly what the shared compensation would be, but I think it's somewhere around $15,000, maybe 20. Again, I can get those details and return back to you when we have them. We're discussing this now because Carol's contract with Jewish Family Services is about to come to an end at the end of this month, and this would be an opportunity to renew it, but to have two towns sharing the obligation. And certainly it would be a win-win for our seniors in town who have already relied on Carol, and it would make it official for her and a partnership with South Orange, as we're always talking about, SOMA Two Towns for All Ages.
Thank you, Mr. Daffis. Any discussion? No further discussion, Mr. Daffis. So I think takeaway is to move forward at this time and follow up.
Terrific.
Do we need to vote on anything tonight? I mean, I'm supportive of it. I'm just not sure that there's anything that is ready to vote on yet, but I'm supportive of it if you're just sort of taking a straw poll.
I think that's it, Greg. I will share details once I connect with both business administrators, and then we can take it from there. For now,
okay, thank you.
Support for the shared service.
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Limbrick. Mr. Daffis, number 3, please.
Okay.
Maplewood Village Pedestrian Plaza.
Oh, right. Sorry, I have so many screens up, I couldn't find it. This is a quickie. We, obviously, as you all know, we have extended all of our outdoor dining initiatives to help our restaurants through the end of next year, including our evening, during the week anyway, pedestrian plaza. We wanted to check in with our restaurants. Since the cold air is here, the winter is coming, we're about to have a storm. If the pedestrian plaza at night has been hindering them in any way, For instance, if anyone finds that closing down the streets is making it difficult for them to receive takeout or pick up curbside delivery, which is what a lot of restaurants will rely on as we get even colder into January and February. And so we did a survey along with Deb Johann, the manager of the Maplewood Village Alliance. And I'm happy to report that we did not receive any issues for now, and we will continue monitoring the situation. We will continue with our pedestrian plaza as weather permits.
Thank you, Mr. Daffis. Any discussion on Mr. Daffis' comments, statements, thoughts? Okay. All right. Thank you again, Mr. Daffis. Ms. Fritzen, you technically have the floor, but as you articulated, you've kind of given away the spill the beans. Do you have anything else to add regarding the bidding process this morning?
No, Mayor, I do not.
Okay. Thank you. So we'll move on to discussion item number 5. Mr. DeLuca, report out on the demographic information of members, current members of our boards and committees.
Thank you, Mayor. Some years ago, about 4 years ago, we decided as part of our responsibility of diversifying our boards and committees that we would capture the demographics of those members. So we've put together a survey. We've done really 3 SurveyMonkey requests over the years, and I have something to put up on the screen. This is also part of Sustainable Jersey. We're used as a model for looking at our boards and committees and trying to diversify them. Let me put up the charts. So here is what we got back. We received 95 responses in 2020. We received 96 in 2019. The pie chart is the current membership. So you can see it's 2/3 white, 1/3 people of color, and then the bar chart here just shows the 3 years. Blue is 2018, yellow is 2019, and red is 2020. So our white representation has gone down a bit. Our Black African American has sort of been constant at 20%. And then you can see a few changes here and there among other groups. This represents, we sent out about 120 requests for responses and we got 95. So this is about the best we've gotten in both years. So there may be people we're missing, and that certainly could, skew it some, but this is the best we have right now. So we asked 7 questions. This is the first question. Second question.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
I think there's a point we should recognize on this first question, and that is the multiple races. That's actually a good sign. A lot of times, having multiple friends of being mixed race, one will identify themselves as being a mixed race, but a lot of times, not being white necessarily or Black, it does align with diversity. So that's a good statistic there when you look at that.
Right.
That's nearly doubled, so that's good.
Okay, great, thank you. We asked them how they identify, female to male, transgender. You can see the change. We've increased our female representation. Our male representation has gone down over the years. We asked age. This is the first year we included the youth advisory group. So that could add a little bit of that could be a little bit of the reason why we got, the under 19s, where we didn't really have that many before. But you can see we're still, under 50 represents a good number of almost half here of our population. But where you really see the strong participation is in the 40 to 60 range. That's 54%. And, some of that is the children are older. people are more settled in the community. They're more settled at their job maybe, and they have more time to devote. What's interesting is when you look at the bar chart, we just don't capture any 20 to 29-year-olds. And that may be, people are not staying here, they're going, or if they're in college and stuff, or if, if they're going to college locally, it's just too much to go to college and be home and to volunteer. So, you see the sweet spot is the 40 to 49 and 50 to 59.
Yeah, that's a good point, Mr. DeLuca. Just the fact that, I can understand the low 20s, but like those 27, 28, 29s, and, that we have our housing stock is what it is compared to, say, a South Orange, which is a comparable place.
Right.
But yeah, there may be an opportunity. We do have some developments that have, Avalon Bay, for example, and maybe we can make a concerted effort to proactively go to one of their events or something like that to recruit potential younger demographic for boards and committees.
And then, well, this also, if we look at where people live, 95% are homeowners. That's been pretty consistent over the years. And we have tried in the past to really reach out more to some of the rental properties to get some of the tenants involved. This is where we might find a younger population also. So I think this is an area where we can do some more work, working with some of the developers and their agents, and giving us an opportunity to get in there and to talk about volunteer opportunities. So I think if we could if we can get a little higher in the tenant population. Now the census says that renters are about 21% of our population. So we're way behind in representation here. Then we asked the question if they feel if they identify themselves as a member of the LGBTQ community. That's gone up somewhat over the years. It's doubled since in the last 2 years, more than doubled in the last 2 years. Live in Maplewood. So what's interesting here is, a good about 40% have been here less than 15 years. And if you look at the bar, we are getting a little bit more in the under 10 years in the red here and here, a little bit less in the long-term residents, but there's a good balance. But again, this sort of mimics the age where the most involved are people who are here, over 15 years. Or even 20 years. It's, some of it is just their kids are getting older and they have the free time to get involved. And that's just a demographic that, that's just a fact of life here. This is an interesting thing because even though it might be, we skew a little bit older, we are getting a lot of newer people onto our boards. Almost 2/3, 63% have been on the board, on their committee or board less than 5 years. So when you figure most of our terms are 3 years, 4 years, these represent, first termers. So this is, I think we're trying to always have a nice balance here. This is actually a pretty nice wheel on how it balances out, because you saw some of the legacy folks who've been here, but then you also have a very strong new group, and a group who's been around, maybe just starting their second year or second term rather.
Yeah, that's a good
that
point.
shows again. We only asked this question for 2 years, but again here you could see a big jump here in the 1 and 2 years, and even in the 5 and 6 years. So,
if I may,
I'm sorry.
No worries. I just want to recognize, though, I think a lot of that is, part of our efforts collectively to really proactively reach out in the community and grab new residents, because, our town is changing every month, 300 houses this year so far and counting. So we're getting new families and new fresh blood, if you will, into the community. And I think as we continue collectively as a township to reach out to these people who want to get engaged, in key factors, this is reflecting our efforts, I think, in the last couple of years for sure.
So I think the top line takeaways, I think we're going in the right direction. To diversifying our boards and committees, we have to work a little harder. I think, and this represents the total number. As you know, we have some boards and committees that are totally white. And I think we need to really focus in on some of those committees and work a little harder on getting them more diverse.
Well, I'm on board with that, and I've been doing the work on that. We'll continue to do that, but we all obviously have our work cut out for that. So let's continue that effort. But I do think that, again, I think it's a telling, and I love this stuff. So when you sent it, I was all into it. I think that we're going in the right direction. There's some opportunities. The rental is a real key place, so we should definitely find ways to penetrate that market, to increase that number to align with the census. And there we might find some of the attributes that we're looking to make some of our committees whole. So, we have these opportunities, we got to get them there. So
the 20 to 29 age group that's a really tough one to get people to join committees. They're graduating college. They don't know what they're doing. They're hoping not to live with their parents. They may live with their parents, So that's a really tough one. They don't know what they're doing yet.
Yeah, it's true. It's like, you're trying to figure out, am I going to go back to school or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Any more comments or thoughts on the study provided? All right. Thank you, Mr. DeLuca. We'll now move on to discussion item number 6. Ms. Adams, shared service with South Orange to hire a consultant regarding recycling bids.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. As you know, we've talked with Village President Sheena Collum and the heads of their environmental advisory, and including our counterparts here in Maplewood of our Green Team Chair and our Environmental Advisory Chair. As everybody here knows, at least on the Township Committee and Finance, we're struggling year after year, and it's getting worse and worse with trying to do the state mandated recycling collection and also not constantly see those costs going up. And they've done nothing but escalate for the last 5 or 6 years. It used to be a revenue source. It's now a $500,000 line item and maybe more. Our contract is up at the end of February. One of the resolutions tonight is to just extend to try to get the end user where Basso, the contractor we use for recycling pickup on curbside, to Giordano, and align those two contracts for us, so that we can send them out to bid and for next year. We're also talking with South Orange about trying to align our contracts. The problem is, just like we've alluded to on a couple different topics with Mr. Daffis's topics and Mr. DeLuca's topic about shared service, this is another place where there's a couple things. There's companies that aren't bidding on certain towns, and we don't know why that is. We have our suspicions why that is. And then we have the fact that our contract is only as big as Maplewood's is, and 6,000 plus homes. So we talked about trying to figure out how to attack this situation. So President Collum was interested in exploring exploring options. What can we do? And we've been studying this internally, as you know, Mayor, with environmental and Green Team, to try to figure out what we can do to get more bids for this contract, and that might be combining garbage collection with recycling, but there's a whole, it's a big animal and with a lot of tentacles to try to figure out. So in this case, we're talking about hiring, going out of state preferably, but someone with knowledge of state regulations in New Jersey, but someone who's impartial to give us a very distinct roadmap. The chairs of both volunteer chairs in each town are working together to develop an RFP that, of course, both township attorneys would look over and finance and try to figure out what we can do and whether or not we can get something going here. So that would be, we want a real end product. We don't want a study we don't want a bunch of recommendations that any of us could write. We want information that we don't have. We don't know what we don't know. And we want to, at least on a shared service for now, whether or not we work together after that, is just work to hire a consultant to kind of guide us, because there's so many things we don't know. And so it would be, as Mr. Davis said before, we're not sure of the amount, of course, because it would have to go out to bid. So it would probably be 10 to 15,000 per municipality to share the service. South Orange trustees have already approved it at their meeting the other night. So I'm asking for support for us to try to, loosen this tight nut that we can't seem to crack open.
I support it 100%. I think this is a regional issue, not just we cannot carry on the way that we're going. And you're right to lead this effort. And I thank you. I know you put a lot of sweat into this and a lot of research. This is very complicated. So yeah, I support it 100.
Yeah, I agree. I think, our environmental sustainability also needs to be economically sustainable. And, the ratios here have just been thrown totally off. And, I like Ms. Adams, and I think others on the committee have my suspicions about, what the issues might be. And, I know we've had Mr. Desiderio make some inquiries in the past, and I would just ask that, as Ms. Adams suggested, that, Mr. Desiderio and counsel for South Orange just, are involved with this, just to make sure that, that what we're doing complies with the legal requirements, and that, the bidding and such is all done according to how it's required to be done. But I'm certainly supportive of the idea, and the amount sounds reasonable. And I think doing it with South Orange, also will add some, some efficiency, since, we both are looking for the same information for the purposes of recycling. We're essentially the same community, even though we get different bills. So sharing the bills here certainly makes sense to me. And, let's try to, if not get to the bottom of this, and, at least dig a little deeper.
Thank you, Mr. Vic says yes, and I'm definitely on board. Ms. Adams, thank you. We need a sensible approach, and if this consultant can help us put together a model that we can scale across, be it a shared service or even a regional level, I think that makes a lot of sense. And we all know from a long-term cost perspective that the trajectory we're on is not really sustainable, no pun intended. But to find a consultant that's a little bit outside of this this bubble or environment that comes with a fresh perspective is ideal. So I'm definitely in support of this as well. So we can call a vote if we want to. I guess we'd be voting on supporting creating this RFP and being willing to allocate 15,000 investment. Desiderio, do you say?
I think, Mayor, you should. I think you should just give a straw poll and then let Ms. Adams come back with the proposal specific as to the money.
Okay, that's totally fair. I think you got 5 yeses, Ms. Adams. So why don't we just move forward with the next step of getting it together?
I'll let everyone know. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Adams. Okay, we're now on discussion item number 7, our final discussion item for this evening. Mr. Desiderio, easements for 9 Highland Place. You have the floor.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. As I wrote to you in my memo yesterday, the development on 9 Highland includes the issue of 2 easements, one a sanitary sewer easement. This was discussed with the CED, which gave approval. One is a sanitary sewer easement, which is not an issue. The other is a parking easement with regard to some spaces that would be exchanged between the 2 entities. The back of the lot at 9 Highland abuts the property at the Woodland. There would be some parking spaces, and this would help accommodate this particular project. I sent you the material. If there's questions, like I said, the CED did approve it did at least look at it and said that they would support it. So unless there's some issues from the governing body with regard to it.
Any further discussion? And I mean further discussion in terms of what Roger's saying, not from our seed meeting regarding this easement.
If there
Nothing
aren't
further.
I'm sorry.
Nothing further from me. I think we should do it.
Okay. Then what I'm going to do is I'll do memorialization resolutions, and then I will ask that the easements be executed. They've actually been executed by the developer, and then they will be recorded, and they will become they'll run with the property. So thank you. That's all I have with regard to that.
Thank you, Mr. Desiderio. Okay, that concludes our discussion items for this evening under agenda item number 16. We'll now move on to agenda item number 17, which is our consent agenda. May I have a motion, please?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move that we adopt all items on the consent agenda.
Second.
Excuse me.
Except for one.
Except for one.
Except for the snow plowing.
Right, the very last one on there, 342-20. You received a memo from Mr. Kittner late this afternoon with regard to that. I would actually ask that that be removed and voted down, voted a no on that based on supplemental information that Mr. Kittner received.
Okay, I'm gonna vote against my own motion then, and I'm gonna remove that we. I'm gonna move items 1 through 15 and 17 and 18 on the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, Ms. Fritzen, please call the roll.
Adams,
Yes.
Mr. Daffis,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Glenbrick,
Yes.
Mayor McGehee.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Fritzen. Can we get a
Mr. Mayor, for purposes of voting it down, I would like to move resolution 34-20.
Second.
Perfect. Ms. Fritzen, please call the roll.
Ms. Adams,
No.
Mr. Daffis,
No.
Mr. DeLuca,
No.
Mr. Glenbrick,
No.
Mayor McGehee.
No.
Mayor, if I may, one supplemental thing related to that. In light of the fact that we now do not have we did not award a contract for that, Mr. Kittner requests that he be authorized to go out for bids on a rebid basis for snow plowing.
Yeah, second. Ms. Fritzen, please call the roll.
Oh, you guys are fast tonight.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Mr. Daffis,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Glenbrick,
We're getting good at this, yes.
Mayor McGehee.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Fritzen. And thank you, Mr. Desiderio. All right, we're moving on to agenda item number 18, public comment on any subject matter. Nick, please advise.
Okay, guys, we're at the last public comment. If anybody in the attendees would like to speak, please use the raise your hand function. We'll give you 3 minutes. All right, Mayor, I got nobody.
Mayor, I do have a written comment that came in via email if you'd like to entertain it.
Please, Mr. Schuster.
The email is from Darlene Kraus. She writes, with current township administrator in an interim status, my question is in reference to current union contract negotiations. Contract negotiations which were in process during prior township administrator tenure Will the current interim administrator continue the processes, or will a pause continue until a permanent administrator is named? Which contracts have been settled and signed, and which are in process and remain open? And if you'd like, Mayor, I'm happy to address that.
Please go ahead, Mr. Schuster.
Thank you, Mayor. Without getting into too much detail, all but 2 contracts have either been signed or waiting being put in their final form. We're going to continue negotiations and move forward on the other 2 contracts. Other than that, we don't comment on contract negotiations.
Thank you,
Mr. Schuster. You are in fact going to be continuing the negotiations. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Schuster.
Thank you.
Okay. We will we'll close our second and final public comment, and I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move we adjourn and move into ABC.
Second.
Aye.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you. Good night, everyone. Ms. Fritzen, you now have the floor.
Okay, Mayor, give me 1 second. All right, this will be the meeting of the Maplewood Local ABC. And tonight, we'll be entertaining a person-to-person transfer from, it's the plenary retail consumption license number 071133019003, here to issue to CTJRW LLC to Avenue Pub LLC. First, I'd just like to take a roll call of the Maplewood Local ABC. Please signify by saying aye. Ms. Adams?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. DeLuca?
Aye.
Mr. Lamberick?
Aye.
Mayor McGehee?
Aye.
Okay, Mr. Slingerland and Mr. Kroll with us on this meeting right now?
Mr. Slingerland was here early on. I don't see him now.
We have someone who's on the phone here. Who's that?
Wayne, is that you?
He's muted.
Mr. Walls, have you muted the phone?
I have not. It came muted. I believe if you are on the phone, it's *9 to unmute yourself.
Mr. Kroll is in the attendees. He's the 973 number. We can bring him into the panelists.
Okay.
Yeah, he's the last digits are 9253. That's Mr. Kroll's number.
Okay, because he's on the phone, it won't allow me to put him in a panelist, but I can allow him to talk.
Okay, let's do that then.
Is Mr. Slingerland no longer with us?
That might be him on the phone. I don't know.
There's Wayne right there. Wayne, is that you?
Yes, that's me.
Perfect. I see a 7228. Is that our other individual?
Do we have one person? Do we have one person?
Gil Slingerland.
Do we have one person tell this person how to get the mic back on? Nick, can you do that?
Sure. So if you're on the phone, you just have to hit *9 to unmute yourself, and you'll be able to speak.
Can you hear me, Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
We hear you.
So we're just waiting on Slingerland, correct?
Yes.
I've asked him to unmute a few times, and nothing's happening.
Well, he was there in person before. I don't know why he's calling it.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was in with video before.
Yeah. It's harder to unmute on a phone, but
He was on Zoom. He wasn't on. He was regularly in the meeting.
right.
I don't know.
Maybe he
I
can
don't know
come
what.
back that way.
I don't know what has happened to him.
Did somebody call him?
I'll text him. Well, he's on the phone, so you can't.
Right.
If *9's not working, try *6. That might be the other way to unmute yourself.
Yes, sir. This is the Maplewood Township Committee.
Oh.
Okay, so
I'm still here.
I was able to reach him. He's going to try *9. Nick, would you do us a favor and walk him through? He may need to hang up and try again.
Okay, no problem. If he calls back in, I'll see if he comes through.
I think that's what he's doing.
Why doesn't he just use the Zoom link again?
I wonder if I called him on my phone.
There he is. There he is.
Okay.
Thank you.
Welcome back, Gil.
Yeah, my internet went out and I couldn't get the phone to pick up. I apologize.
Okay. Are you in fog?
Yeah, it looks that way, doesn't it? I have no idea. I think I have a very bad connection.
I can hear you though.
I'm on the island of Vieques, Puerto Rico, and good evening, everybody. I'm the attorney for Wayne Corral, who is Avenue Pub LLC, and we're here tonight to appear before the committee, the ABC committee, for a transfer of the liquor license. So Wayne, I think he's on the phone with you now. And
Yes.
If he is, do you have any questions of Wayne?
Let me, Mr. Slingerland, let me interrupt. First off, I want to make sure the record is clear. This is not Avenue Pub. As I see it, is AVE.Pub LLC. Is that correct, Mr.?
That's correct. That's correct.
That is correct, right? It is not Avenue, it's Ave. Pub LLC. Okay. With your permission, Mr. Slingerland, Mr. Kroll, would you raise your right hand, please? You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay. Ms. Fritzen, do you want to just give us the history in terms of publication and the like?
Yes, sir. Okay, again, it's a person-to-person transfer. The plenary retail consumption license number 0711-33-019-003, here to issue to CTJRW LLC to AVE.Pub LLC. Said applicant has in all respects complied with the requirements of the statutes of New Jersey. Said applicant has complied with the ordinances of the Township of Maplewood essential to the transfer of such a license. Said applicant has disclosed all financial information pertinent to the transfer. Said applicant has submitted a sworn statement affirming they will assume all outstanding obligations of the transfer. Said applicant has received a tax clearance certificate from the state of New Jersey. Said applicant has published on November 19th, 2020 and November 25th, 2020 in the Maplewood South Orange News Record intentions of the purchase. No objections were received in writing by myself. Are there any objections now from anyone present? And any questions before we get to the actual resolution of the local ABC?
I have a question.
Nick, are you seeing anybody?
I have no one here that would like to speak.
Okay. Members of the local ABC, questions?
I have a question. So, I don't know who that, either Mr. Slingerland or Mr. Kroll. The trade name is going to be Avenue Pub, but the legal name is going to be Ave Pub?
Yes.
That's the only question? Mr. Kroll, if you would, why don't you just run through quickly what your intentions are with regard to the property? So it's on the record and people have some idea.
As of now, the plan is to demolish the existing building and build a new residential mixed-use building with the pub on the street level, first floor, with entrance off Springfield Avenue, and then residential apartments on the second and third floor. And it was the hope is that with planning board approval and with their blessing that we can get started, within the next few months.
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Kroll concerning the project or the transfer of the license?
I have no questions.
Ms. Fritzen, you have a resolution?
Yes, I do. It's resolution number 337-20. It's an AVC transfer resolution, CTJRW LLC to Avenue AVE period Pub, LLC.
I move it.
Second.
Second.
Any further questions before we take a roll? Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Daffis?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. Lambrecht?
Yes.
Mayor McGehee?
Yes.
And good luck.
That concludes
Oh,
the.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a happy holiday, everybody.
I move we
You
adjourn.
too.
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye, aye, aye.
Have a great holiday, everybody.